Today we're looking at Enuma Elish, one of the oldest creation stories in the world, coming from ancient Babylon, in a time where chaos ruled and a mighty god, Marduk, created the heavens and the earth. So if you're interested, and only if you like what I'm doing here, consider giving me a follow. Tonight's story is one of the oldest we have, the Babylonian creation epic, Enuma Elish. It's a tale of water, chaos, and a god who became king by defeating the very sea that birthed the world. What makes it fascinating is not just the myth itself, but how it shaped an entire civilization. Enuma Elish is not just about how the world began, it's about how people imagined order rising from chaos, and how a single city, Babylon, used myth to explain its own power. In many ways, this story is a mirror of how ancient people understood authority, religion, and their place in the cosmos. Before heaven had a shape, before earth had a name, there was only the deep. No horizon, no light, no order. For the Babylonians, the world began not with land, but with water. This is very different from the modern idea of a vacuum or empty space. For them, the beginning was not emptiness, it was Timokimaum. It was a living, moving sea. From that first ocean came two ancient powers, Apsu, the fresh waters beneath the world, and Tiamat, the salt sea. Their mingling was the beginning of creation. They were not just places, they were beings. In Mesopotamian thought, nature itself was alive with divine presence. From Apsu and Tiamat came the first gods, then more followed. The divine family grew, and with every new generation, the universe became louder and more unstable. These gods were not distant, they were forces of nature, emotions and human experience rolled into one. The younger gods were lively, noisy, and restless. Apsu grew angry. To him, creation had become disturbance, and disturbance had to be erased. This is a very ancient fear, that life itself is a threat to the old order. Apsu made a terrible choice. He and Mumu began to plot the destruction of the younger gods. Silence, he believed, would restore peace. But in trying to kill the noise, he set in motion the very war that would reshape existence. But Ea, the clever god, learned of the plot first. With magic and wisdom, he struck before Apsu could act. He cast a spell, put Apsu to sleep and killed him. This moment is crucial. Intelligence and cunning defeat, brute force, a theme that echoes through many ancient stories. Ea built his shrine on the waters of Apsu and made that conquered space his own. A victory over chaos had become a place of power. This is more than a house. It is a symbol that order can be built on the ruins of chaos. From Ea's house, Marduk was born. He was strong, radiant, and destined for kingship. Storm and wind answered him as if they were alive. In the Babylonian mind, Marduk was not just another god. He was the embodiment of divine authority and cosmic control. Tiamat was furious at the death of Apsu. Her grief became rage. She gathered dragons and monsters and prepared to wage war against the younger gods. This is the turning point. Creation is no longer peaceful. It is contested ground. At the head of her army stood Kingu. Tiamat gave him authority and the tablets of destiny, symbols of divine command. The war was now about rule itself. Whoever held those tablets held the right to shape the future. The gods were terrified. None of them wanted to confront Tiamat. The struggle for the world had become too great for any ordinary god to face. This is a moment of crisis. The old order cannot win, but the new order is not yet ready. Then Marduk stepped forward. He would fight Tiamat only if the gods granted him supreme rule. The bargain was accepted, and the fate of the cosmos was set. This is not just a battle, it is a political act. Power is negotiated even among gods. They clothed him in royal garments and armed him for battle. Marduk was not merely a warrior now. He was a king prepared to reshape the universe. Every weapon he carried symbolized a force of nature under his command. He marched into battle with storms at his side. Wind, thunder, and lightning moved like weapons under his command. In the ancient imagination, the storm was not random weather. It was divine power made visible. Tiamat rushed toward him. Marduk trapped her in his net, filled her mouth with the evil wind, and shot an arrow through her heart. Chaos had met its end. This is the climax of the epic, the moment disorder is defeated and creation becomes possible. From Tiamat's body, Marduk made the world. One half became the heavens, the other became the earth. Creation was born out of victory. This is a powerful image. The world is not made from nothing, but from the remains of chaos itself. Marduk fixed the stars in the sky, set the moon on its course, and established the order of the heavens. The universe became something that could be watched, measured, and trusted. For the Babylonians, astronomy and astrology were not separate. They were part of the divine order. He shaped the earth into a fertile place. Rivers flowed, fields grew, orchards spread, and the land became fit for life. Order was not only beautiful, it was productive. This reflects how the Babylonians saw their own world, a place to cultivate, irrigate, and manage. Marduk assigned the defeated gods to labour. They dug canals, carried loads, and maintained the world. But eventually they grew weary and rebelled. This is a rare moment in myth where even divine beings complain about work. To relieve the gods of labour, humanity was created from clay and divine blood. Humans would carry the work of cultivation, worship, and maintenance of the sacred order. In this story, humanity is not the pinnacle of creation. We are servants of the divine system. Enuma Elish was more than a creation story. It was a political and religious statement. It declared that Marduk ruled, that Babylon stood at the centre, and that order had triumphed over chaos. This myth was recited every year during the Akitu festival, the Babylonian New Year, to renew the king's authority and the city's place in the cosmos. But the story did not end on the tablets. Every spring, the Babylonians reenacted this victory during the Akitu festival, the New Year celebration. For 12 days, the city honoured Marduk, reaffirmed the king's authority, and symbolically renewed the cosmic order. The Enuma Elish was recited, the king was humbled before the gods, and the community celebrated the triumph of order over chaos. One of the most striking rituals was the king's humiliation. He removed his crown and royal robes, knelt before Marduk's statue, and declared he had not sinned against the god or his people. Then, a priest struck the king's cheek. If tears came, it was a sign that Marduk accepted his repentance. This was not weakness. It was a reminder that even the king served the divine order. During the festival, there was also a symbolic reenactment of Marduk's battle. On the 7th day, Marduk disappeared, representing his imprisonment in the mountains while fighting Tiamat. Other gods then set out to rescue him. This was a dramatic reminder that the victory over chaos was not a one-time event, but something that had to be renewed every year. On the 11th day, the gods held what scholars call a divine parliament. They gathered to decide the fate of the cosmos for the coming year. This was the moment when the divine order was reaffirmed, and the king's role as Marduk's representative on earth was renewed. The festival culminated in a great procession. The king led the people through the streets of Babylon to the temple of Marduk. Music, chanting, and celebration filled the air. It was a moment of collective joy. The city had survived another year, and chaos had been held at bay. The influence of Enuma Elish extends far beyond Babylon. Scholars have long noted parallels with the Genesis creation story, the primordial waters, the separation of heaven and earth, the creation of humanity. But the differences are just as telling. In Genesis, one God speaks creation into being. In Enuma Elish, creation emerges from violence, struggle, and the body of a defeated goddess.